Hmm.
early season in fantasy hoop is kind of one of the times where you probably could find the most value and where we can find out if we hit on some things or not, man. What are some key tips? Because early in the season it's tough, right? You got players who you drafted, you're invested in the ADP, but then you also realize like, oh shit, this dude is better than I thought he was, and it could happen in like the first 1 or 2 games where we
Hmm.
see a big change, a la Jordan Poole a couple of years ago. There's players every year that just kind of surprises. Grayson Allen and Dante DiVincenzo last year. What are you looking at early season wise when it comes to like your roster? Are you making moves quickly? Are you holding? Like, talk to me about your early season process.
Yeah, I try to have at least like one or two spots open on my team of people that, I took, flyers on them late. If there's a hot waiver wire item or like pickup that I can do, like I'll probably try to pursue that. Like in the cases that we were talking about before, taking advantage of injury news. So Chris Middleton, both of them ankles is,
Man,
bro. When I see his notifications, it just cracks me up. It's not
you
like
got
one
the
ankle; it's
vendetta
both
against
ankles.
Chris
How can you play
Middleton.
basketball without ankles? Like,
You and Chris Middleton is like me and Damian Pierce in football.
I just can't. So that being said, I'm saying like Gary Trent Jr. is a player that I'm kind of eyeing and curious about because I think he's going to get a lot of minutes for Doc Rivers and this Milwaukee Bucks team. They don't have a lot of depth. That's what they tried to focus on in this offseason. And Chris Middleton is a huge piece for them at that small forward position. I think Gary Trent Jr. might be able to play that. Torian Prince will probably slide in there as the small forward to start. And then we'll see who else plays the four. And then, oh no, so Giannis and then Brooke Lopez. So it's probably going to be Gary Trent at the two. I think he could be a good like cheap source of threes. And if you're looking for that points, steals, he can also do that too. So in terms of strategy though, try not to overreact. It's much like fantasy football. You know what I'm saying? You're going to have your best players. You drafted them for a reason. Let them cook. Let them do their thing. Might be some growing pains at first, but see it through. It's really the back end depth that I'd be willing to cut bait with for a hot waiver pickup that might come up.
Yeah, I'm especially with my early picks. Like I'm holding these guys, man. Like I don't really say, oh, I just completely miss on them. It takes me a while before I'm just giving up on players that I spent anything more than like a 10th round pick on.
Right.
But for these later round picks, especially the ones who are like younger players or maybe we're anticipating, you never know when that moment's going to come for the rookie. So like earlier, we even talked about Donovan Clingan. And it's like if he doesn't show me something in this first week that either the minutes are there or that he can get the stats that we need for fantasy, I'm gonna cut bait. Like there's a time and a place for rookies and young players. We don't always know when that is. So I think we're players that are veterans that maybe we just missed on. Like in a couple leagues, I scooped up Al Horford, right? Like because he's always been a top, 50 to 60 player in cat leagues. If it comes out this year and he's not performing at a high level, unfortunately, I'm probably going to cut bait a little earlier than I normally would. So I'm looking for those guys, like players that are either showing me something a little earlier that I can hold on to, but if it's an older name and I didn't invest a high draft capital in them, I'm probably going. One stat that I do look at is if I can get at least 2 games of 15 points in this first week, I'm probably picking them up because that means early in the season, they've already established themselves as one of the scorers for the team.
Yeah, I'm curious to see which one of these waiver wire guys kind of emerges here, because a lot of these teams weren't really playing and showing their full hand of what to expect this season. A lot of players rested, key stars rested. There's been a lot of coaching changes, so this is really going to be the wait and see mode for me. And I think that most fantasy managers should do the same. I think if you want to play the game, if you're playing on Yahoo, as long as you have IL Plus, man, a lot of players have that game time decision tag on it. Throw them into your IL Plus, pick up a player, get an advantage, get an extra game in there, and then drop them whenever your player actually plays. So that's one of the things I think you can do some like roster maintenance gymnastics to kind of, get a leg up early on just to kind of keep it. You can kind of test the waters without having to lose too much.
Well, that's a hell of a point because it's like you can use that spot, and there's typically somebody who's a game time decision, especially
Right.
right now. You can see a
Mm-hmm.
lot of those tags on there, and it's like it gives you an extra roster spot or two or three, depending on how many of those spots that you have. And I use that a lot. Like I try
Yeah.
to use that to my advantage, and I'll even like if it's a bad player, I might even hold them in that spot even until it clears the game time if they happen to play. Like sometimes you get lucky doing yeah. Sometimes you get lucky doing that, right? Like, but it does give you a chance to like take a look at an additional player and
Yeah.
maybe just get them for 1 game, or maybe if you're looking in your daily leagues, it'll add a little extra value to your roster. So
Mhm.
what about but there is one thing too, like what about the teams that drop like players, right? Because I hunt those guys. Like they
Mhm.
drop players who are playing bad, but sometimes it really is just they're not good anymore, or they don't belong on rosters. And I have a tough time with that, Dan. Like that's one of the things where I'll see older vets, a guy like we talked about Al Horford, a guy like that who
I
will
thought you was
get
gonna say
dropped.
Chris Middleton.
Chris Middleton. Yeah, he's on. I got him on a roster, right? So at what point are you like, ooh, I need to pick him up and then hold him, and maybe I got 3 IL spots already burned, and I'm trying to hold injured players. Like, what point are you just like, I seen enough, man. I'm out of
Yeah, I
this
think I
these
think
leagues.
for me it's more about like if you're playing in a waiver system where you gotta like, you have a waiver priority list and you want to make sure that you're getting to the top point of that priority list. So like I wouldn't if someone got dropped that like I'm interested in, I probably wouldn't put a bid on him until like I'm at least at like waiver wire 2 or 3 if you're like back in there because like once you put in that waiver claim, you're already moving to the back. And once we learn more information, you're going to want to get to the top of the line, not the back of the line. But if you have fab, I would say don't bid more than like $3 or $4 on a player because you're going to want. I learned this lesson last year in the league that we were together when I had no budget left and you were just having a spending spree on all the waiver guys to win the league. So I would say don't spend your money all up on even if you see an attractive guy that you may be digging, like don't burn your money like that. Like just throw in like $1 or two. You might win the bid because it's a daily league, so people don't spend money as aggressively. I'd be hard pressed if someone's going to drop someone that's like really, really good in the first week.
Right.
This is more of like a 2, 3, 4 week. Once we got like a month sample size of like, yo, this guy isn't what we thought he was. Then that's when you can cut bait and then look for those other players that, oh, he was playing bad. Well, there's a situation that happened. So let me go scoop him up. I think things are going to turn around. You can have
It
those conversations
happens
later.
every single year in all fantasy leagues that have fab. There's going to be people spending $8, $10, $6. It happens 20, just depending on the player.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you this, because the fantasy playoffs are so far away and because there's so many injuries, it is infinitely more valuable to have your fab towards the end of the year. It's just one of those things where like it looks like you need a player at the time, but because that player you pick up could get hurt, he could lose his role throughout the year. Things change throughout the. It's tough to commit that dollar amount early. So I would just be very cautious with that early waiver priority. Feel free to burn it because at the time it's going to get reused anyway. Like if you see a player, I think I would be more willing to burn a waiver priority over like fab is
Right.
right now. And I think waiver priority, if you see somebody out there that even kind of piques your interest right now, I think is like, this is the perfect time to use it. Go get the player that you want because you could find like literally league winners right now, in my opinion.
It's a little early to find some league winners. Like who's really out there?
No, I'm just saying, like last year, you sometimes you find like those 20-point player
Look
like
at
Jordan
Grayson Allen.
Poole.
Like
Jordan
Grayson Allen was
Poole,
probably an early
yeah,
one.
Grayson
Yeah.
Allen, he was up there last year. Dante DiVincenzo was one of those
Dante
guys
was
last year
definitely.
that just
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
he happened to what was he like third, fourth round value on the season or something
But
crazy
that
like that.
happened because didn't somebody get hurt or was it the trade? It was
It
the
was
trade,
probably, I
wasn't
think it
it?
was just his role. Like his role kind of expanded in that offense. I think Julius Randle was like banged up at times last year.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it was like
yeah.
but you just never know. Like you never know
Right.
how long things last, man. We talked about injuries at the top of the show. It's like sometimes these players stay out longer than we think. Like I think a team that might have a player like that is the Clippers. With no Kawhi, we don't know how long he's going to be out. Like you get
Mm-hmm.
Norman Powell at the end there, but like Terrence Mann is what I'm saying? That's a late
He's a
round
very and
guy.
you can have him right now. Like that's actually it's a good point that you brought him up because he's a person that I've been looking at as like a late, one of those guys. If I'm going to stash somebody in my IL plus, like let me go get Terrence Mann and see what he can do because this is like the most opportunity he's ever had. And like he
Yeah.
started in the past, but he's always had his share. I'm saying usage with Kawhi and Paul George. How does only James Harden there and like Norman Powell, like he's a scorer, but like I don't know, maybe we could see more out of Terrence Mann. They did pay him and he's on a pretty favorable deal. But like, I think this is the opportunity for him to shine. One other name I'd probably throw out there, somebody that I'm eyeing, is Julian Strawther. I don't think Michael Malone has named a starter at the 2, and everyone has kind of assumed it was Christian Brown or maybe even Russell Westbrook. But like, Strawther's been shooting lights out in the preseason, and I think that that's the stretch 3 that they might need. And he's actually been really good defensively. That could be the reason why they were able to let Kentavious Caldwell Pope go if they give this kid some run. Like he's super young. Was he only his second year in the league?
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. He showed a lot in the preseason enough that I'm curious enough to be like, he's on my watch list for sure.
We will definitely be checking out players like that, and obviously Dan and I will be here for you guys throughout the whole season. So make sure you guys follow along. But right now, man, there's gonna be a lot of value, some names I'm sure we'll be talking about next time we are on the air, man. Until then, anything you got for these guys week 1?
Nah, man, let's just get through scot-free, injury-free, and watch a lot of ball, man. Can't
Yes,
It's the best
sir.
time of the year.
Hoop season is back, man. Dan and I will be back next time. We'll see you guys. Peace out.
Peace.